Sandra will open up the proceedings.
One fine morning, when my life is over, I will fly away home. One fine morning, when my life is over, I will fly away home. Take me home. I want to go home. Let's go home. Come on, let's go. We're going home. Home. That's a song she would have sung as she stole onto the plantation under the dead of night. That is a song she would have sung to call those who were going with her to come. Who am I talking about? Harriet, of course. Miss Harriet Tubman, conductor on the Underground Railroad. Harriet had many a tale. Harriet had many a story. At under 5 foot, she was a giant. Her voice would lead people. She would sing the song, and they would come. And on they would go onto the pond. She would lead them from the south to the north, following the North Star as her father had taught her, following the paths, following the North Star, wading in water, across muddy fields. She would lead them. Some would not want to go. Some would be reluctant to run. It was dark. They were strange sounds. But she would make them. Sometimes she would put a gun to them and tell you about the go. Between you, me, and her, she had no bullets in that gun. But such was her way, she could persuade them, because they couldn't turn back. If they turned back, people would know the path. Everything was done in secret. For she was a conductor on the Underground Railroad. She'd start off like that. She was a small child who, young man, how old are you? 11. 11. Yes, you're a strong young buck. Yes, you would have been part of that railroad train as she ran, and she would take you with her because you were come and be free, because she wanted her people to be free. Harriet Tubman, what a woman she was. Some say she freed over 300 people. It wasn't so. Maybe about 70 to 100, but that was enough because, you know, there was no sat-nav in those times. All she had was that North Star, but that was enough to take her to freedom. For me, Harriet Tubman was a great woman. I discovered Harriet about your age, when I was about 10, 11, and I thought she was a dynamic woman. Besides my mother and my aunt and my godmother, this was a woman I could read about in books, that I could identify with in a way. Obviously I wasn't an enslaved person, but her plight, her stubbornness, her will to succeed, despite the fact that sometimes she would drop asleep. She would fall asleep, the result of an iron weight being hit on her head, a result that nearly killed her, but her mother brought her back, and from that time she would fall asleep, and sometimes she would fall asleep as she ran. Can you imagine being on the run with her, and suddenly Harriet would just fall down, and they didn't know what to do? They would gather around her and pray and hope that the patrollers wouldn't be out with their dogs. And she would wake up and continue. Harriet never lost her passenger. She never got caught, in fact. Even though a massive reward was put on her head, nobody ever betrayed her. Nobody ever gave her up, and they could never find her. And she was a remarkable woman. And I about such Harriet Tubman, much to my delight and joy, as you can see the cover is purple. I had nothing to do, but it is a book for children, but I've had people who are 80 plus and have delighted in it. And I know Helena, you have read it, haven't you, Helena? And we've got Jasmine here, she has got books on sale. Jasmine, we're all the way from South London, so the book is here on sale. For me, Harriet Tubman is inspiration. For me, she typifies us as a people who were struck down with so much drama, but despite everything, she rose and she still rises, and she's just marvelous. I think she was a wonderful woman. I'll just read the first bit. On one moonless night in 1849, a runaway slave ran swiftly toward the Choctaw River. Up above, the North Star shone brightly in the sky, guiding her on. She moved quickly and carefully through the trees. Keeping close to the shadows, the runaway was on constant alert, wary of any sudden movement or sound. She occasionally touched a tree trunk, her fingers brushing the moss to check her direction. Her father had taught her that moss mainly grew on the north side of the trees. Owls hooted, bats flicked back and forth, crickets clipped their wings, and flies zigzagged across the path, as if this was any other night in the Maryland woodland. But it wasn't any other night. This was the night Harriet escaped from slavery for good. Though she didn't know it yet, this would be the first of many dangerous trips to freedom. Her first trip, she tried to get away, but her brothers were with her and they were afraid. But on this trip, she decided she needed to go by herself. At that point, she was married to John Tubman. He didn't want to go, and so she went, and she did it herself. She walked, and she was helped by a Quaker woman, and the different people helped her along the way. But she was able to get away to Pennsylvania, to Philadelphia, where she met the wonderful William Still. Those of you who have seen the film, yeah, a lot of that, very Hollywood in some parts, but a lot of it was accurate and very, very true. And I think Cynthia did a marvellous job in instilling the spirit of Harriet Tubman. But my book does talk about this, and it talks about different rebellions that took through, because as you know, slavery, people just didn't always accept slavery. They did fight back. They fought back either running away or different revolutions, and this book goes through that. And it looks at the tenacity that Harriet did. And she did rescue a lot of people. And one of the people she did rescue, and I have to say this, it's one of my favourite books, were her own parents. It was one of the last rescues. Her parents were very old at that time, very old, they're probably in their 80s. They couldn't wade through the water or do any of that, but she carried them, she made a makeshift cart, borrowed a horse from a nearby field, and she rode them to sea. So when they passed through. And for me, that was such a great tribute. Because I dedicate everything I do to my beloved parents who I lost in 2016. They came from Guyana, as Tuup said, they came from Guyana in the 50s. They came, as many of our parents did, for 5 years and stayed 60 plus. My mother passed here, my dad was in Guyana when he passed away. But I dedicate everything I do, I now do to them because they gave me such a grounding and such an education of sorts. I have an old friend here a friend from school, my school days, Edith Cabal, which is just March, which is just so fabulous with her son. And we know that Edith wasn't always the greatest school, but I think it turned out great people. Absolutely. And that's exactly what I'm going to say, Mother. It did, and we did have some marvelous teachers, like Neville Cornwall, one of my all-time great teachers. We did have some wonderful teachers. I don't know if anybody saw that Adele song, I'm not leaving that. The Adele thing the other day, when they brought out that teacher, and it was a black woman. Did you? Oh my God! I was half watching it, but that woke me up. That woke me up because and that's how it was. We did have, and there's not many black teachers. So Adele was so lucky to have that woman, and she was only in Adele's life for a short time, but you see the impact it made, and that's what great teachers do. I know Helena is sitting here, great teacher. And Harriet was a great teacher. And I know my parents, in their infinite wisdom, were great teachers. And I'm sure all of us have. So yeah, Harriet Tubman. If you do have books, yeah, six lines. If you do, then please see Jasmine. And I will sign in purple pen. And in the book, I have one of my favourite stories. Because I'm a storyteller, I insisted there be a story in there. And the story I have in there is the people who could fly. And I'm not actually going to tell it. I'm going to tell it. People Who Fly is one of my favourite stories. There's a wonderful, African-American storyteller called Virginia Hamilton. And she tells this story. She wrote this story down. It's a beautiful story. And I insisted with my editor that I wanted a story in there, and they let me have it in there. It had to be cut down a lot, but the basis is all there. But if you want to read it longer, check out Virginia Hamilton, People Who Fly. I know we had it in Southern Libraries. I hope it's still there in the libraries, and we maybe have it here in Camden. It's a beautiful book, People Who Fly. It's got some beautiful illustrations in it. It's still available right now. But I'm going to tell you a story. So if I say crick, you say crick. I'm going to tell you a Nazi story. Oh, you know a Nazi? Half man, half spider. He's always has a bad press on him. Everybody think he too greedy, he too naughty, he too this and he too that. But a Nazi is a survivor. That's what a Nazi does. The stories came from Africa with the people. The people weren't supposed to have their language, their tongues, their culture, their heritage, anything. But a Nazi survived. And a Nazi survives all of us. He weaves that spider's web, and we are here. And a Nazi will appear in different cultures throughout the world. Different cultures, the trickster. Every culture has a culture that's trickster. Even here in Britain, the Jack Tales, Jack the Giant, is a trickster. But let's get back to a Nazi. Crick! Oh, they're listening! And Nazi was hungry. That's the only thing. And Nazi was always hungry. And he was hungry because there was a great hunger in the land. There was nothing to eat, and so Nazi was sad, so sad. Oh, what was he going to do? Nobody had food. He went here and there. Nobody had anything to eat. But then his cousin came visiting, and he looked at his cousin and said, hey, how come you look so good and we all look so bad? Go on. You see, his cousin had a secret. When his cousin left, a Nazi decided to follow him. And Nazi thought, what's he going this way? This is not his way home. Why are you going to the river? What's he stopped by that tree? What's he doing? And he look, and then he see his cousin pull out a pot, place it down, and to the pot his cousin said these words, boil, pot, boil. Well, the stranger And the pot began to, some nice smells began to come out to that pot, and then the cousin began to eat and eat and eat. It's a magic cooking pot. How come his cousin liked that magic cooking pot? And he saw his cousin eat and his belly was full, and he pushed the pot away. Now at this point, I want to ask you, what are some of your favorite foods? If you had a magic cooking pot, what would you take out of the pot? Yes, my friend. Burgers. The youth. Burgers. Lovely guess. Oh, hey. Do you know how to make it? No. Oh. You better learn. Because if you ever in a place like when I went to university, I didn't know to cook, and I was starving because my mother didn't have food. I learned to cook quick. But you better learn. Anything else? Whatever. What do you like to eat?
Oh, probably some chicken.
Jollof. Okay. Jamaican style. Yeah. What do you like to eat? Rice up. Oh, that's classic. Helena, what do you like to eat?
Saltfish, I think.
Saltfish? Yeah, very nice. And my dad did the best saltfish cake at Easter. Yes.
Proper jollof rice.
Listen. I wasn't going to go there. I wasn't going to go there. Because, you know, is it Ghanaian? Is it Nigerian? Is it Jamaican? I mean, yeah. See how a fight starts up? Anyway, when the proper jollof rice. Okay, Jasmine. Fried fish.
Grilled scampi with stuffed celery.
Do you do it?
Let me see.
You do it.
My wife does it.
Your wife does it?
Better.
Oh, better. I like it.
Because I can make the oxtail.
You can make it. Okay, Mars. Proper Jamaican rundown. Okay. Proper Jamaican rundown. I like that. Third Dan. Alright, so Ghanaian, Nigerian. Hey, alright, okay, cool. And what would you like? What's your favorite? What was that? Chili penne. Oh. As gentlemen.
I would say pepper pot, a good pepper pot.
A good pepper pot. A very good. That's Guyana's national dish. A good. You know, when I went to Guyana for the first time, I had the real pepper pot. You know, it blew my mind because my mum always made it. She diluted it. She never made it hot. And when I just eat it. It was nice though, and I was sweating that time. Oh wait.
I'll go for the jollof.
You know the jollof. Jollof. Well, back to the story, and Nancy, oh, his belly, oh my goodness, he had to have that food. So he went to the pot, he took it out, and he remembered the word boil, pot, boil. It bubbled and boiled, and bubbled, and gave him food. Oh my, he eats so much, his belly was so full. He thought, I gotta take this home for my wife and my children, maybe a neighbor or two. We can have a party, we can eat and eat and eat. So he puts it on his back and he's walking down the road, happy as can be. Oh, it feels so good, man. Think of all the food he's gonna eat. But then the pot seemed to change. It got heavy. And heavier still. And so heavy that pot get. He took one step and then it broke his back. He took another step, back down, crawling. He was crawling on his belly. He got home. His children came running. Daddy, what's wrong? What's on your back? My children, get it off me, please. They pulled and tugged and pulled the pot and moved. His wife came out. She wasn't pleased. What's wrong with you? What is wrong with your face? What is that on your back? What do you keep so much nice in my yard for? What's wrong, husband? My good wife, get this thing off me. But she tried. The children tried. They all tried to get the pot, still not move. Who does this belong to? Go and get my cousin. The cousin came running, and when he seen the pot, he said, oh Lord, how come you got that? You know how I got it. Don't get it off me. It's not mine. What do you mean it's not yours? I borrowed it. Borrow it from who? The wise old woman. Oh, now can you all give me a dun dun dun? Dun dun dun. This is a dramatic part of the story. Because nobody ever borrowed anything from the wise old woman. You have to ask you first, but you know, nobody did ask you. So when she came for, she was sent for. She stepped forward. And she folds your arms like so. I'll fold your arms, please. Fold your arms like so. And she look at a Nazi with one beady eye like so. Beady eye. And another beady eye like so. And she wags your finger like so. Yes, it's a good wagging and beady eyes. And so she said, how come you got my pot and Nazi spider? Oh, my good woman, I'm sorry, I didn't know it was your pot. I didn't know. Please forgive me. Can you get it off me? No, she said. I have to punish you. Oh, don't punish me. I didn't know it was yours. Please, please. It makes her hard. She said, all right. If you can answer my riddle, I will remove the pot. But if you can't, you have to serve me for the rest of your day. You didn't have much choice. It's all right. I tried to answer your riddle. What is it? And just said, all right. Listen carefully. Riddle me there. Riddle me that. What is sweet water that stands firm? Poor Nancy had no idea. He's never good at riddles. Anybody here know what is sweet water that stands firm? Coconut. Right, hold on. Not coconut. But you know, you have to, yeah, please. Don't say the answer so quick. Because we have to have dramatic tension and build up.
That's why I whispered it.
Yes, I know, I can see you whisper it, but we don't want you to say it yet. Alright. And you say coconut. No, sorry, not coconut. Alright, I see there's somebody. Alright, God. You always have one. You're supposed to build up. Well, the answer to the riddle is, say it, sister. Sugar cane. And I didn't know it, but the wind did. And the wind whispered it to Nancy because he liked Nancy. And I said, true again, the pot tumbled off his back. The old woman said, oh, you're lucky you should pick up the pot. But Nancy, always a cheeky one, always a brazen one, said, excuse me, before you go, can I have a bit more food? No, she said, learn to cook food. And that is why we all have to cook food to this day. Now, I know that pot is out there somewhere, so if you ever find it, will you let me know? And not only does it do the cooking, it does the washing up too. Why a men's story?
Once there was a king. The king was very powerful. The king was so powerful that the king, like every king and every queen, has their advisors. The king advisors would sit and advise for the king. But what the king couldn't understand was, I am king, why do I listen to advisors for? I can do as I please. They're telling me and giving me advice when I really am the king and I can do as I please. Why should I have to listen to their advice? You and I know that every king or queen needs good advisors. But he, like anyone, you know, they wanted power. And they couldn't understand, if he has power because he is king, why does he need advisors? The king thought about this for a long time. And he thought to himself, you know what? Their children are just as ambitious as they are for position. So he called the advisor's children to his estate. And he spoke in their ears, saying, you are the children to my advisors. I have brought you here amongst me. Why do you wait for your inheritance? Why do you wait for your mother and father to say that they will fund you for your education? Don't you wish to have power now? And the children thought to themselves, yeah, we want power. We are young. We have energy. And the king said, I'm your king. And nothing shall befall you. No harm will come to you. In fact, if you were to take the life of your elders, I may give you their position. And then with their position and you in office, you can do as you please. I mean, I'm just saying this if it was to happen, but I am your king and nothing shall befall you. What say you? And the young ones, they thought to themselves, yeah, why should we have someone telling us when to go to sleep, when to wake up, who to play with, when to have pocket money, when not to have pocket money? We are young and we want power. So they said to the king, yes, we're young and we want the position of our elders. So said the king, if you come before me and do away with your elders, I will give you their position. Crick! Crack, crick. The young ones, they went away. They discussed with each other. They said, will you do the deed? Yes, we will do the deed. How we know the deed will be done? You will bring your blade. And on your blade will have the blood of your parents. There, then we will know that all have done the deed. And so it was. They all retired and went to their homesteads. That evening, who in their homestead done the deed was done. One young man, his father, comes home every day. He comes home from the road, from the business with the king, advising. He asks for a calabash to be brought. He washes his feet from the dirt of the road. He washes his hands from the dirt of the papers. And he sits there ready to eat. His son always comes with a calabash to give him to wash his feet and hands and then to present the food. But when the son came into the house, the bowl, it moved. The son, his heart was pushing against his chest. The father sat there, and the father did not turn to look at the son. The father just said, do what you have to do. Do it quickly, and spare me any pain. The son, the bowl was almost going to drop out of his hands. He heard what his father said. He said to himself, how does my father know what is in my heart? The father sat there. He did not move, he did not look at his son, but he said once again, son, do what you must do. Do it quickly and spare me any pain. The son, he was so wrought with worry that he dropped the bowl of calabash. The water, he went before his father on hand and knees. He said, Father, if you only knew what I was about to do to you. And the father looked at his son and said, son, why do you look so distressed? And the son said, Father, the king, he gave all of us young ones the pleasure of power. And all of us thought to ourselves that we shall do the deed. We are the children of the advisors, and the king will give us your position. if we were to take your life and have your position? And the father said to the son, wow, then what shall we do? And the son said, Father, I cannot make you stay here, because if you stay here and the king knows you are here, our life is at an end. Oh, says the father, I've learned something today. I am your son, and you are my father. Tell me, what shall we do? And the son says, Father, I know up in the mountains there is a cave. I will take you to the cave, I will hide you in the cave, and I will bring you provisions to sustain you with water and with food. And the son took his father up into the mountains, into a cave. And the son was coming down from the mountain. He saw a rabbit leaping and jumping. He cut the rabbit and he left the blood on the blade to dry. The next day, they all came before the king. And the king said to them, has the deed been done? And all the young ones, they held up their blade and they showed their blade with the blood crusted. And the king said, then you have done it. And now you have power. And now you have power, you have control. And what will you do with your power? And the young one said, we shall make this village great. And they went out. And they started to make areas where there was the blacksmiths, and areas where there was the silversmiths, and areas where there was the tanners, and areas where there was the jewelry gold makers. And before you know, within the kingdom, they had their quarters. And the young ones would go to the king and give the king advice. How we shall irrigate the land, how we shall make creches for mothers and children. But the king was like, you know what? These young ones, they're worse than the parents. Now they're coming with all these ideas. I thought I will have autonomy and power to do as I please, but now they give me plans and designs. The king thought, how do I get rid of them? The same way I got rid of their parents. Ah, said the king, I will give them a task, and if they cannot complete my task, then they shall lose their lives. So he called them all together once again. Hey, he said, all of your ideas are great. All of your ideas are wonderful. I want to build a building to house all of your knowledge. And the young ones, they said, this is good. Yes, we will have such a place. We will build such a place. Yes, he said. All of your knowledge will be in this house, and this house shall be known all around the world, all around Africa. Everyone will come to see and learn and sit in this house of knowledge. And the young ones, they said, yes, this is what we want to do. This is fantastic. And the king said, the thing that shall make this house most unique is it must be built from the top down. You must start to build this building from the top, and then you must work your way down. And the young ones, they held their head and they said, but king, a building has never been built starting from the top and working down. Where is the foundation? And the king said, I am not your advisor. You are my advisors. And if you cannot advise me, then all your lives shall be forfeit. And the young ones, they held their head and they said, without the knowledge of our elders, how can we move forward? What have we done? And they went to their places to live. And they tried to think of ideas and constructions of how to build a building, starting from the top and working their way down. The king had given them all 7 days. By the end of 7 days, heads will roll. Each and every day that passed, the young man, he did not sleep, he did not eat, he went up into the mountains. He gave his father the provision of water and food. His father asked his son, "Son, why does your eyes sink back in your head? Why does the flesh on your body fall? Why have you lost so much weight?" And the son broke down before the father, saying, "Father, the king has asked us an impossible task." "What?" says the father. "The king has asked us to build a building starting from the top and working all the way down, and it cannot be done." And the father threw back his head and laughed. "The building can be done," said the father. "There is a saying in Africa, a proverb which says, what an elder can see sitting down, a younger person cannot see standing up." "Listen," says the father to the son, and whispers. And the son, "Of course, father, of course." They embrace and they go back down. Well, he goes, the son goes back down, leaves the father in the cave. And the son, he drew up his plans and he made his calculations, and that was the seventh day. All the young ones went before the king with their parchments rolled up underneath their arms, with their easels, with their squares, with their measures, with their strings, with their knots. And they went before the king and they said, "King, the building can be built. We will plant 4 trees, maybe wait 10 years for the trees to grow." "No," said the king, "I'm not waiting 10 years. Scrap the idea." Another one said, "King, we will kill plenty cows. We will stitch all their stomachs, making a big balloon." "No," said, "I don't want a mess." Can you imagine the mess? "No, I don't want that." The king wanted heads to roll. But then the young man came forward and he said, "King, your name shall live on forevermore. Your family's name will live on forevermore. The sun shall shine your name. The moon will shine your name." And the young man made the king feel so full of his own self-worth and ego. Now the king said, "Yes, yes, yes. How will the building be built?" And the young man said, "You are king. You must lay the headstone. You must lay the cornerstone. You must lay the stone that makes the building a royal building. Without you laying and breaking the ground or the sky, it cannot be built." "Hey," said the king, "how do you know this knowledge?" And the young man said, "My father, he had a very good storyteller and teacher. Her name was Sandra, long time ago. And she had a saying, what an elder can see sitting down, a younger person can never see standing up. And so it is." And the king said, "Then fetch for me your father. Fetch for me your father and bring him here." And the young man said, "My father, he is up there in the mountains. I could not kill him. I could not take his life. And that is where he is." The young man, he went up into the mountains. He brought his father down before the king. He stood before the king, and the king looked at the old man and said, "Old man, did you teach your son all this wisdom, all these stories, all these songs, all these proverbs?" And the old man said, "Yes. In my tradition when I was young, we lived by proverbs. We lived by tradition. What an elder can see sitting down, a younger person cannot see standing up. And I could see what my son could not." And the king realized his folly. And when he realized his folly, when he realized his eager for power, when he realized what he had done, he said to the old man, "I will reinstate you as my griot. I will reinstate you as my mouthpiece, and you shall sit as my top advisor. And from this day, all these young children, they will go to school. And that school long time ago, that university of schools was in Mali, Timbuktu, not mythical, but a reality. The university of all the scholars from Celtic to Greek to Egyptian to Arabic and beyond. I was going with you. Ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the end for your presence. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, down the if you would like a book, please try to buy a book. You know how we writers need to eat. Ladies and gentlemen, on bass, Owen. And I would like to thank the Camden Library Service for hosting us. We will be at Holborn Library on the 1st of December with a storyteller named Janeri and myself and Owen. My name is Tuup, and thank you very much. There's some CDs there. Thank you very much. There's some CDs there and some books there. They're all £5, but please stay, have a quick chat, and thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.